Story 1. I rarely go shirtless in front of other people unless I am at a beach or a pool. If you mean changing clothes, I do not mind. I would be comfortable doing so at a beach or pool and would change somewhere private otherwise. Story 2. If my breasts happen to be the biggest, so be it. Story 3. I am self-conscious because I am so pale that I might be like a flashbang to people. I am very bony and skinny in my chest, so I look a little odd. I do not go shirtless very often. Story 4. I was shirtless at a water park with a female friend, but I am not sure that counts because water parks are appropriate places for men to be shirtless. Story 5. If they cannot handle this dad bod, they cannot handle anything in life. Story 6. 100% comfortable? Not something I think about or that bothers me. Story 7. Fine. They are hardly going to melt on the ground. I am 58. Story 8. I do not care one bit. Being shirtless is fine unless someone is uncomfortable, in which case I feel bad and put something on. Story 9. If you are in a pool, river, lake, or ocean and other men are doing the same, it is acceptable. If there is no context, I do not do it. Women do not typically do the same, so it feels awkward. Also, they are friends, so I am not normally shirtless in front of them. If it is a group of male friends who are shirtless, it is different. Story 10. I am kind of fit, but I keep my shirt on unless the context calls for it. I have often heard women call men vain for going topless. Story 11. I am nearly 40 and in very good shape. My biggest concern is looking like a show-off. Story 12. I used to be very uncomfortable because of my man breasts, but at almost 60 I don't give a crap anymore. Story 13. I live pretty close to the beach, so being shirtless is quite normal for me. I do not care who is around. Story 14. I would love it. If it were not for company standards or human resources, I would go to work without a shirt. Story 15. My concern is more about whether it makes them uncomfortable. If they are okay with it, I like to take my shirt off on a hike. The sun and wind just feel nice on my skin. It's not really about being looked at. Story 16. I have done it before. It depends on how comfortable I am around my friend. My best friend is a woman and I have been shirtless around her. I am comfortable doing so because I know she would never make mean or negative comments, which means a lot to me because many people have, and that made me self-conscious about my body and appearance. I have also been shirtless while changing in front of female friends, and I have seen them in their bras while they changed, whenever we needed to. It is only a big deal if you make it a big deal. Story 17. I do not feel comfortable going shirtless in front of anyone, even in my home. I admire the confidence of people who can go out shirtless without having a stereotypically fit body. I do not mean that in a snarky way. I genuinely wish I could reach that level of not caring. Story 18. I do not have many female friends, nor do we hang out often, so they would rarely see me shirtless. Story 19. I am even comfortable going naked if asked. I do not really care about what people think of my body. Story 20. I do not even go shirtless in front of myself unless I need to shower. Story 21. I am fine with it, but I am considerate enough not to do it. Story 22. I feel context is very important. Keep in mind I was extremely obese and I still have body dysmorphia even after losing weight. I'm currently bulking, so I have some extra padding. It also depends on how close I am with a female friend. Would I randomly take off my shirt in front of female friends? Probably not. Not because of discomfort, but because there would be no reason. If I am at a festival, swimming, or in a hot tub, then yes. I have done that many times. Story 23. Once you hit a certain age, you no longer give a shit what people think. Story 24. Be comfortable, but do not do it outside. My skin is very pale. I get sunburned in minutes, so long sleeves are standard beach and pool wear. Story 25. I mean, it is all about equality. If they strip down, I will too. Story 26. If it is an appropriate time to be shirtless, then it is fine. I am too old and too secure in my relationship to care what anyone thinks. If it is not a socially acceptable time, I do not go shirtless. Story 27. Male, 44 years old. I used to be shy about it, but I got better. I am not very fit, but at the beach I am usually the one who goes into the water while the others complain that it is too cold. I guess that is manly enough to compensate. Story 28. I'm fine shirtless, but I cause an issue when I don't wear bottoms. Story 29. If it's hot out, I'm taking my shirt off. Simple as that. Story 30. I'm 70 and have kept it up. Finding me in any clothing is extremely rare. Story 31. Since losing some weight, I am not nearly as worried about it as I used to be. Story 32. I used not to care, but after working out my chest, I now feel confident going shirtless. Story 33. Most of my female friends are the wives of my male friends, and I am of average appearance, so I do not really care. Story 34. No problem if the situation calls for it, but I'm not popping it off for no reason. Story 35. I am not really comfortable being shirtless, not because of my chest or stomach, but because of the large keloid I have from open heart surgery. I could have it removed, but it might grow back. Story 36. I have had scoliosis since I was a child. I have always been shy about going shirtless, even though nobody else notices. Story 37. It depends on the context. In the conference room at work, not so much. At the pool, very much. Story 38. It depends on the context. If it is an appropriate place, time, and climate, I have no problem with anyone going topless. But in the middle of a conference room in my office, no. Story 39. Not at all. I have surgical scars I like to keep covered. Story 40. I wish I could go shirtless more, but I rarely do because I dislike clothing. My biggest perk is having an office job that allows me to wear shorts every day. Story 41. It's not a big deal. I don't see it as a bad thing and would do it without a problem if I were at the pool or somewhere similar. Story 42. I do not even take my shirt off when visiting sex workers. Story 43. It depends on the friend. I have even been without pants and underwear in front of some of them. Story 44. Oh gosh, I do not like doing it because mine are always bigger, and I do not want them to feel bad. Story 45. Around others, you're lucky if I put on a shirt. I don't care about your feelings. In my house, I do me. You're lucky I put on pants. Story 46. They seem comfortable being shirtless in front of me. Story 47. Outside of going to a pool, it would feel a little weird. I might consider it if it were really hot and I were doing hard manual labor. Story 48. I am not confident at all. I had a bad experience with a former girlfriend. Story 49. I have become crazy fit as a 40-year-old man, but I have unfortunately aged out of going shirtless. Put your shirt on, old guys. Topless is a young man's game. Story 50. I am fine with it unless they make a mean remark. I am not jacked, but I am not fat either. Story 51. I am somewhat fit. Depending on the situation, I probably would not be comfortable being shirtless in front of female friends, especially those who are insecure about themselves. Story 52. I am perfectly fine being topless around women, but I do not really have any female friends unless you count acquaintances or partners' friends. Story 53. I'm fairly conservative in this sense, so I wouldn't do it. I think I have a decent body, though, so it's not due to self-consciousness. Story 54. I have mixed feelings. More yes than no, but that is because I am not 100% satisfied with the look. I have been going to the gym, so it is only a matter of time. Luckily, I am on the thinner side and was a semi-professional athlete since childhood until I broke my knee, so I slowed down. Story 55. As a hairy young man, I did not feel comfortable until I was 38 years old. Story 56. My roommate caught me on a late-night trip to the fridge wearing gym shorts and a t-shirt. I am 15 years older than she is, so it feels awkward. I gave her a bunch of old band shirts that were too big for me. She uses them as sleep shirts. It does not feel sexual to me when she wears them in the common areas. I am just self-conscious. I will change shirts, but I will not hang out without a shirt. Story 57. I used to be all for it. I was shredded. Now I have fat, stretch marks, and shit. Story 58. I'm completely comfortable, I guess, provided it's a setting that warrants shirtlessness. There isn't much that's impressive under there. Story 59. I'll walk around town shirtless. I'm not exactly buff or anything. To be honest, I'm scrawny as fuck, but it gets hot out, and it's more comfortable to be shirtless. Story 60. I would not be too embarrassed. They are friends. I trust them to control themselves and would hope they trust me enough not to be uncomfortable. However, from a purely aesthetic point of view, I firmly believe no man should go around topless unless at a beach. It is almost always either a very overweight man or an arrogant dude bro, and no one wants to see either of them. Story 61. I am comfortable with it, but I am more concerned about how they feel and do not want to make them uncomfortable. If I know they are comfortable, I am fine with it. Story 62. Indifferent in general in appropriate settings such as the beach or pool. I will change my shirt if I need to, anywhere in front of anyone. I do not walk around shirtless for the sake of it. I do not have the body for that. We are all grown adults. The human body is not inherently sexual. I play co-ed ice hockey, and while there is a dedicated women's locker room for privacy, nobody bats an eye when the women dress in the locker room where men are present. Story 63. Well, I secretly made them all wet since I don't do it in front of others. Story 64. Depends on the situation, I suppose. In general, I'm more concerned about making others see my body, which is a fuzzy dad bod with too many scars and birthmarks. So I'm not inclined to take off my shirt in most situations. But that's what people do, and otherwise you can look like the odd one out at a pool party, at the beach, or in a fancy restaurant, so sometimes you have to. Story 65. Doesn't bother me. I'm neither in shape nor out of shape. Just in my 40s. Story 66. I don't go shirtless in front of anyone. My anxiety is too high for that. Story 67. You know what's funny? I'm a fat dude and I hate taking my shirt off, but if I'm going swimming, I suddenly feel fine once I'm in the water. I don't know why, but I guess the water makes me feel covered up and then I get my confidence back. Story 68. I'm fairly lean, so I don't worry much. I'm extremely skinny for my age, but if the opportunity calls for taking my shirt off at the beach or pool, I'm game. Story 69. If there are pre-filled sandbags and a bunch of towels handy, then sure, why not? Story 70. I am usually shirtless at home. Around male friends, I have no issue being shirtless. I do bodybuilding and I am lean, so I feel a bit self-conscious around women I know and prefer to keep my torso covered. Otherwise, taking my shirt off in public is not an issue. Story 71. Ugh. When my male friends take their shirts off in front of me, I get hot and bothered and sometimes end up sleeping with them. Shaking my head. Choose wisely who you do that with. I am female, by the way. Story 72. I have zero shame. I am 43 years old. I work out, watch what I eat, and generally take care of myself. If it is hot and appropriate for me to take off my shirt, for example, when I am working on something, the shirt comes off. That said, I am not going to walk around shirtless in a crowd. If I am at the creek or river hanging out, or building a deck or doing construction, you can be sure I will ditch the shirt. Story 73. Not at all if it's a beach or campground setting. If they get jealous of my fabulous breasts, that's on them. Story 74. I will not even wear a tank top because I do not feel comfortable at all. Story 75. Not even a little bit. Even at a pool or the beach, I still wear something. I do not like how I look shirtless. Story 76. Every decade, I become less comfortable going shirtless around anyone, even when alone. Story 77. If we are near a pool or beach or I am in my room, I do not care. Otherwise, I do not go shirtless. Story 78. Zero fucks given if the setting and occasion allow it, for example by the pool, at the beach, at a grill, or as a dare. For context, I am male, 35, hairy as a dog, and have a small beer belly. Other than that, I would say that I am average, so nothing special. Story 79. It depends on who. With people I have been friends with for decades, I would be comfortable being naked in front of them. Story 80. I do not like wearing shirts and never wear one at home. If anyone comes over, I will be shirtless. It does not matter whether they are women or men. Story 81. I do not even think I am comfortable going shirtless in front of male friends, laughing out loud. Story 82. Am I going swimming? Am I at the beach? Am I involved in a ridiculous backyard game that became more physical and competitive than we planned? If the answer is no, my clothes stay on in front of just about everyone. If the answer is yes, I do not care. They will be blinded by my incredible farmer's tan. Story 83. I am very comfortable. I work out 6 days a week, twice a day. Why keep it hidden? Story 84. I have been a carpenter all my life. It is natural and I could not care less. Story 85. I am 100% comfortable. Why should I care what other people think of me? It's just a body. Nobody can tell me anything I haven't told myself already. Story 86. Even when I had six-pack abs, I did not like walking around shirtless in front of people, and I do not even sleep without a shirt. I do not know why. I just feel more comfortable in clothing. Story 87. Before I had children and had time to exercise, I was comfortable with my shirt off. I liked it because it showed I was in decent shape. Now that I have 2 children and am 10 years older, I do not feel attractive without my shirt on. I avoid taking my shirt off when possible, but I still do at the pool or in similar situations. It is not a big deal. I am married and still look decent compared to other fathers my age. Story 88. To be honest, I go shirtless all the time. I'm not in shape, but I'm not fat, so I don't really care. I'll be in my front yard doing yard work, mowing the lawn, or similar tasks, usually without a shirt from May through September. In public, I try to be a little classier. Story 89. Gender does not matter for that. Personally, I do not like going shirtless because I burn easily. Story 90. I spend about 75% of the summer shirtless. I run, do landscaping, and drive without a shirt. I keep a couple of shirts in the car for stores, but I'd prefer not to wear one. Story 91. I live by the beach, so going shirtless and wearing flip-flops are the norm. Story 92. They wear short shorts and t-shirts with no bra near me. Why would I care if they see me without a shirt? Story 93. I don't even feel comfortable in front of the mirror or with my gorgeous wife. Story 94. Hi, I'm my wife's boyfriend. I do daily core workouts. My abdominal muscles look like a washboard. I like to aura farm shirtless in several places, but the best is at yoga class. I wear only a thong. The women enjoy it, but the instructors are not always comfortable. If I were not so muscular, I think more instructors would stop me from wearing a thong. I've only been told to put my pants back on once, but I was allowed to remain shirtless. Story 95. I don't go shirtless unless I am changing clothes because I have a physical deformity. Story 96. I try not to simply because that much flubbery sexiness makes people flustered. Story 97. I don't go shirtless anywhere. It would be pretty strange if I only did it in front of female friends. Story 98. I gave up on caring years ago. Now, if you come to my house, you are lucky if I am wearing more than sweat shorts. Story 99. It is a bit nerve-wracking, but it always ends up fine. I usually forget my nerves after just a few minutes. I am just a little self-conscious, but I feel that is pretty normal. Story 100. I do not want to see myself shirtless, so I doubt anyone else would either. Story 101. I am over 400 pounds, which is not good, but I do not have female friends, so I am saved. Story 102. I used to weigh not more than 135 pounds a couple of years ago. Now I weigh about 190 pounds and have a bit of a gut, but I feel much more confident about my appearance and am more inclined to go shirtless or wear something skimpy. Story 103. It does not really matter to me, but double standards do. Story 104. I have no qualms as long as the situation is socially appropriate. Story 105. I enjoy being naked and feel comfortable without clothes in front of others. Story 106. My metabolism slowed down a lot when I turned 30, and I am 34 now, so I am nowhere near as confident to do that as I was in my 20s. Story 107. With male friends, I am often shirtless and sometimes nude. With women, I can go shirtless while swimming or changing, but I am much less comfortable unless she is my girlfriend. Story 108. My dad instilled in me that going shirtless in a setting that is not a beach is not something a classy man does. Whether I agree or not, I still follow his advice. Story 109. I don't like being shirtless. I feel naked, so you will never see me that way, even at home. Story 110. It depends on the level of friendship I have with them and on the situation. Story 111. Heck, I have been nude many times in front of female friends and roommates. Story 112. I am Australian. We go shirtless in the supermarket if it is hot enough. Story 113. Never. I had an intense growth spurt as a child and have had stretch marks since middle school. I always tell people I was attacked by a tiger, but I am extremely self-conscious about them. Story 114. I wear 3 layers when it is 100 degrees. My skin is mine. Nobody gets to see it. Story 115. I am not even comfortable going shirtless in front of a mirror. Story 116. Context matters more than company. Am I swimming or doing yard work? Am I shopping or eating out? Am I driving or on a run? Whether I am a man or a woman does not matter at all. It has everything to do with the activity. Story 117. Since I started going to the gym almost every day, I am comfortable being shirtless in front of most women. Story 118. 0% comfort. Not only female friends, either. I have been fat my whole life and am extremely self-conscious about my body. Story 119. If I looked like Adam Levine, I would never wear a shirt. Unfortunately, I am the opposite, and I do not want to make the ladies jealous of my immaculate moobs. The shirt stays on. Story 120. I do not want to inspire jealousy over my luscious breasts, so those are for me and my girlfriend only unless someone is paying. Story 121. I feel comfortable being naked around my friends, as long as they are comfortable with it. Bodies are natural. Modesty is a cultural concept. Story 122. Does not bother me one bit. But if we are outdoors at the beach or pool, I caution everyone to wear sunglasses. The sun reflecting off my pasty white torso can be blinding. Story 123. I'm covered in tattoos, so I'm more colorful when shirtless than when wearing a shirt. I know a lot of people are uncomfortable with tattoos, so I warn them, laughing. Story 124. I do not put much thought into it. I do not wear a shirt when I am swimming, and I wear a shirt in everyday situations. I do not worry about whether people find me more or less attractive when I take my shirt off. I would feel more anxious about it if I were always wondering what others think of me when I am shirtless. Story 125. I hate wearing a shirt sometimes. I have a weird reaction to different textures on my skin, and shirts feel like they are wrapping around my armpits. So if I am working outside on a hot day, the shirt comes off and I do not care who is there. Story 126. I am 49 and look 12 when shirtless. I would like to live in a climate where I never have to wear a shirt. Story 127. After I had cancer, I became skinny and my breasts became smaller, so I don't really care now. When I was heavier and needed a bra, I hardly ever went topless. Story 128. I look like an anime character. She is probably more comfortable than I am. Story 129. I'm in shape, but I still think no one wants to see my body. I'm not going to subject others to it. My wife is the only person who sees me shirtless outside the pool. Story 130. I am comfortable, I look good, and I have an exhibitionistic streak. However, I follow social norms, so if there is not a good reason for partial nudity, I am not going to do it. Story 131. It depends. At the swimming pool, that is one thing, but other than that, I would always keep a shirt on. I do not like the sun on my skin. Story 132. Whether male or female, I do not feel comfortable taking my shirt off in front of anyone because I am fat. Story 133. It depends on the context. At the pool or the beach, no problem. In public or while driving around shirtless like a hillbilly, no. Story 134. At the pool, 100%. At dinner, not so much. Many establishments have a sign addressing this dilemma. Story 135. I am a little overweight and feel self-conscious about it. I spent a year of heavy drinking after a divorce and gained a lot of weight. That was a long time ago, but I still have stretch marks and some extra fat around my waist, so I usually do not take my shirt off for anyone except my girlfriend. I am 6 feet 2 inches tall and weigh 218 pounds, so I am not really fat, but in my mind I am, and it is hard to let people see me. Story 136. I cannot keep my shirt on. Neighbors hate me. Fuck them. I worked hard for this. Story 137. As a land-going whale, I used to be very self-conscious about my weight and rarely took my top off. When I turned 30 years old, not stones, I stopped caring about strangers' opinions. At the pool bar, my top is off. At the beach, my top is off. At foam parties, my top was never coming off anyway. Story 138. I have no problem with it, but I try to read the vibe first. Story 139. It depends. At the beach, the pool, on a boat, or while changing, I do not care. In other situations where it is not normal to be shirtless, I probably will not, because why? Story 140. It is interesting. At the beach, I do not feel insecure at all. In any other situation, I am very uncomfortable. Story 141. If it is a situation where being shirtless is acceptable, I give it no thought. Story 142. I am 57 years old and have stayed in the gym to maintain my rugged 220-pound physique. It is against my religion to mow my yard with a shirt on. Story 143. If I am going to be in the water, I will be shirtless unless I am paddleboarding or doing another activity that will expose me to the sun for long periods. Sometimes I sleep without a shirt when it is warm but not hot enough to justify turning on the air conditioning. Story 144. I have no problem at all. However, I understand that some people may feel uncomfortable, and I will need to address that. Story 145. I have had a wide range of physical appearances, and I am just as comfortable when I look like a prime athlete as when I look like a blob without a shirt. It depends on whether the situation calls for a shirt. It is awkward to be shirtless in a restaurant. At an all-inclusive beachfront resort with friends, the beachfront restaurant was just a thatch roof hut where no shirt and no shoes were required, so that was fine. My sister-in-law spends a lot of time at my house. I asked her if she minded me being shirtless. She said that wearing a shirt at home is how you let the system win, and she does not care. Story 146. I'm totally fine with it. I like being naked or as close to naked as possible. That said, I only go shirtless at the pool or the beach and I enjoy it. I don't think my female friends are checking me out, but in the back of my mind I hope they are. Story 147. Having female versus male friends makes little difference. I do not like going shirtless because I am overweight and somewhat insecure about it. If I looked good without a shirt, it would not bother me to be shirtless in an appropriate context. Story 148. I'll never be the first guy to take his shirt off, but damn it, I will be the second one. Story 149. I could not care less about being shirtless around anyone. The moment I get too hot, I take it off. I have to read the room, though, as there are plenty of prudes around. Story 150. Depends. Will my mammary glands show up here? Story 151. I have been programmed not to think about it, so I do not. I am a bit chubby with broad shoulders. I would probably be extremely insecure about it if I allowed myself to be concerned. The hardness men were once told they must have can be useful at times. Mostly a psychological hellscape, but sometimes handy. Story 152. Sure. I don't really care, even if I occasionally get asked what my surgery scars are from a liver transplant. Story 153. I feel the same regardless of gender. I am slightly uncomfortable, but it is fine if I have to do it. Story 154. I am probably as comfortable with them being shirtless around me as they are. Story 155. I live in Southern California, so we go swimming often. I have a dad bod and have been overweight, but I did not care. Story 156. If I'm shirtless before they arrive or it's a relevant matter like swimming, I don't bat an eye. But if it's something like, oh, it's just hot out, I'd be very uncomfortable taking it off. Story 157. I am quite muscular and uncomfortable taking off my shirt in front of my female friends. I usually wear a sun shirt when swimming. Otherwise, it just looks like I'm obnoxiously showing off. Story 158. Now, not very. When I was in my 20s and in phenomenal shape, I was extremely fit. Story 159. I love a shirtless guy. He oozes sexuality and I'm mesmerized, especially if he has a hairy chest. Flaunt whatever you have. Don't be shy. There are lots of women who love a teddy bear chest. Story 160. Often, if it's people I'm comfortable with, I walk around with my shirt off. I live with a Generation Z woman. I am a decade older. Her boyfriend lives with us, and both of them do not care. That's because we are all relaxed. Some people are just very strange. Story 161. The richer I get, the more comfortable I feel taking my shirt off. When I buy my yacht, I will walk around naked on it. Story 162. I have always been comfortable with it. I am in pretty good shape, which makes it easier. I also work in construction and hate sweating, so I remove my shirt quickly. Story 163. Consent is key. If others do not care about my appearance, neither do I. I simply do not care about my looks in a healthy way. Story 164. I am pretty comfortable in general, but depending on the place and context, I will keep the shirt on. Story 165. My female friends are a bunch of animals and will cause problems with my girlfriend if I do that. Story 166. I don't even particularly like being shirtless around my wife, so there's that. Story 167. I don't think it is appropriate to be half-dressed in any situation except at the beach or pool. It is not about being in front of others. It is about being out in public in a state of undress. Story 168. I managed to keep my chest larger than my waist and to maintain fairly defined abdominal muscles. Not bad. Story 169. Not going to happen ever. Extremely uncomfortable. You can remove the word female. Applies to all people except medical staff. Story 170. I am in pretty great shape. More toned than the average person. It depends on the situation and who I am with. Very rarely do I feel the need to be shirtless around other people. Story 171. That is fine. A swim is nice when going by the ocean. Aside from that, showing off is totally uncool, and I agree 100% with women who criticize it. Looking good, at least not bad at age 60, is nice, but being respectable is much more important to me. Story 172. It depends on the season. Generally, I am okay with it, but it is better if I am not very pale. Story 173. I do not have any anymore, but I would feel comfortable if I knew them well enough to be sure they would not make fun of me. Still slim at the moment. Story 174. On a scale of 0 to 10, I am a 1 in comfort and always have been. Story 175. I do not give a fuck. I wore assless chaps to a friend's birthday party. It was great. Story 176. I am a gym rat, so I would have no issues. It does not happen too often, though, to be fair. Story 177. I would be comfortable. I usually prefer being shirtless, but I don't want to be judged or make others uncomfortable. So I avoid it unless there is a valid reason. Story 178. If I did not have loose skin, I would happily go naked. It is a battle scar from my war. Story 179. I really do not like my body because I hate it. I am 5 feet 10 inches tall and weigh 200 pounds. I carry my weight pretty well, but my career in the military gave me severe body dysmorphia, which I already had before joining. Story 180. I am a bit self-conscious about my belly, so I would not do it randomly. On the beach or while changing clothes, I would have no problem. Story 181. This was especially true once I started bench pressing over 225 pounds. Story 182. 10 years ago, no problem. Now I'm good. The shirt can stay on. It's for everyone's benefit. Story 183. Aside from one friend who poked me in the belly years ago and said I had a peak dad bod, I genuinely do not care about being stark naked in front of anyone. Just do not comment on the dad bod. Story 184. Am I at a beach? Of course I'm comfortable, Jesus Christ. I'd be uncomfortable in a shirt, actually. Am I at a funeral? Yeah, I'd probably be uncomfortable and wear a shirt. Story 185. I'm a runner. I run all summer without a shirt. I don't mind, and neither do my female running friends. Story 186. There have been complaints. I don't see why. Everyone is supposed to feel welcome at church. Story 187. Zero fucks given, honestly. If there is a reason, I will take my shirt off. Story 188. For me, it is more a question of how comfortable I think they will be if I go shirtless. That very much depends on the specific female friend. Story 189. I have a bit of a stoner and dad body. I would look better with a little more muscle, but I feel pretty comfortable with my shirt off. I have a very good face and a great personality, which helps with many body insecurities. Laughing out loud. Story 190. Perfectly comfortable. That said, not randomly or without reason. Are we swimming? Sure. Am I changing my shirt? Sure. Just because we are outside or it is a little warm does not mean you should. That will make your girlfriends uncomfortable. Do not do that. If you want to make a move, just make a move. Story 191. I'll be honest. I look forward to it because I've spent thousands of hours in the gym over the years for two reasons: to be strong and to look good naked. Story 192. It is fine if it is a situation where people expect to see men without shirts. I do not feel that I need to swim with a shirt on. Story 193. I am not uncomfortable around female friends, but I usually avoid them because I'm afraid they might feel uncomfortable. Story 194. Very comfortable. My friends sometimes joke when they visit, saying, "Whoa, look who decided to put a shirt on." In winter, I am usually shirtless indoors. In summer, I am shirtless wherever possible. Story 195. I do not feel comfortable. I care less, so off with it when the occasion fits. Story 196. I am comfortable being naked in a sauna with female friends. Story 197. I was obese once, but I am no longer and am now very fit. I had a pool party last week that was mostly women, and everyone commented on my physique, which made me feel great. I have never been so happy in my life. Mind you, I am not the biggest guy, just lean and toned. They could probably lift more than I can bench, to be honest. Story 198. Although my breasts are probably larger than theirs, they are not very large. Story 199. I am totally comfortable and in relatively good shape. Story 200. I am self-conscious in general, but not shy in public pools or water parks. Story 201. I don't care. I have no armpit issues, so I have nothing to worry about. Story 202. As comfortable as I am around men, I am, in fact, kind of uncomfortable. Story 203. It depends on how close we are. I've been fully naked in front of both strangers and friends. I'm 33 and bisexual. Story 204. I try to be shirtless whenever I can, and people now expect it. I am constantly very hot. Story 205. I used to throw on a t-shirt or hoodie just to go to the post box or put the bins out. Now I do not care. Gaze upon my dad bod. Story 206. Not very comfortable. There is a lot of body shaming out there. Story 207. Pretty comfortable, I guess. I have never given it much thought. Story 208. I am ripped. I would not be the uncomfortable one in that situation. Many of my female friends are from my coeducational soccer days, so they have seen me like that before. Story 209. It depends entirely on the friend and the explicit consent we have given each other. Some women do not want to see it, many do, and others do not care and would tease me relentlessly about my back hair, which strangely resembles angel wings. Story 210. In general, no issues. I take off my shirt when I go swimming or in the hot tub. Story 211. I do not care. Friends are friends and other things are different. Story 212. If I never had to wear a shirt, I wouldn't. I'm not in great shape. I have a full-on dad bod, and I couldn't care less. Story 213. I was extremely close with a buddy. We told each other we were more like brothers than friends. My buddy, his first love, and I were sharing a hotel room for the weekend while visiting her at college in another state. I usually sleep in just my underwear with no shirt when I wake up. Apparently that bothered him. I am not sure if she was staring, but he politely asked me to put on a shirt. Story 214. What is the context? I do not walk around shirtless except at home, at the beach, or when I am swimming. Generally, I am neither comfortable nor uncomfortable because I am only shirtless for a specific reason or situation. Story 215. I used to be very self-conscious about taking my shirt off. I am 41, and my life is not getting any longer. I do not care anymore about the gender of the people around me. If I need to take my shirt off, I do. Story 216. Bold of you to assume I even have friends, let alone female ones. I am a Redditor, laughing out loud. To answer your question, while I am comfortable in my own body and am usually shirtless in my flat, I would never be shirtless in public unless I was swimming. Even on holiday, I am not shirtless. Story 217. The only time I'm taking my shirt off in front of someone is if I have a six-pack. Story 218. I have no qualms about being topless in front of anyone. I have been going to the gym 4 times a week for 20 years. I am not as jacked as I used to be, but I am muscular and athletic, particularly for a man well into his 40s. Story 219. I feel a little uncomfortable at first, but after 2 minutes of being shirtless, I stop thinking about it. Story 220. It does not bother me if it is contextually appropriate. When I am working outside alone as a farmer and it is hot, I will take my shirt off, but if someone comes around, I will put it back on to maintain some semblance of class. Story 221. We keep a modest approach at home because we have an open-door policy for friends and the kids' friends. I wear a shirt most of the time. I might be shirtless when coming from or going to the shower or when doing yard work, depending on who is present. Bodies are bodies. Everyone has one, and most of us have the same parts. Cover the reproductive parts and be comfortable. Story 222. I do not care if my female friends go topless in front of me. Story 223. Not very. I barely have a chest, and I'm incredibly hairy. If I looked fit and in decent shape, I would probably walk around shirtless. Story 224. Because of irritable bowel syndrome and a genetic tendency to store fat in my midsection, I often look like Randy from Trailer Park Boys. I do not want to show everyone my bloated belly. Story 225. Does not bother me at all. If they do not like it, that is on them. It is not for me to worry about. Story 226. My female friends know I live on a clothing-optional farm in Hawaii. Being naked is not really an issue for anyone. Story 227. I'm pale, have a bit of a gut, and no real muscle. I have to be very comfortable with my appearance. Story 228. Very comfortable. If it is an outdoor activity during the summer, I probably will not wear a shirt. A bonfire usually starts when it is hot and lasts until midnight. If I sweat into my shirt, it becomes cold and wet by the end of the night and it is no fun. Because of this, some people call me shirtless guy. I own it even though I wear a shirt about 95% of my waking hours. Story 229. More importantly, are they comfortable seeing me without a shirt? Story 230. If they are my friends, then they would not judge me and I would be fine going shirtless. Story 231. I go to the gym so that I can be confident with my shirt off. Story 232. My neighbor thinks I am strange for randomly knocking on her door to chat while I am shirtless. Women in the grocery store cringe when I tuck a loaf of bread under my arm while I am shirtless. Women think I am strange for wearing an ultraviolet shirt while swimming. I think I might have it all wrong. Story 233. No, the shirt stays on. I lost my virginity wearing boxers and a hoodie. I'm not joking. Leaving socks on during sex is weird. I cannot do it, which is odd now that I think about it. I should go to therapy. Story 234. I would not do it at a funeral, but if the situation is right, I am neither embarrassed nor proud. Story 235. Depending on the context, if I am changing my shirt, I do not care. However, I would not go topless around them. I have too many scars, and it would make my wife jealous. Story 236. As a man who has been completely naked on 1 or 2 nights out, nothing fazes me. I am who I am. Story 237. I wear a top and a bottom when I go out in public. I am built for comfort, not for looks. Story 238. I don't swim shirtless anymore because I have no reason to take my shirt off. Story 239. It depends. Are we going swimming? Or do I have a reason to be shirtless? If so, 100%. I cannot think of a situation where I would be shirtless without a reason, but I might feel a little self-conscious from the weird looks of strangers wondering why I am shirtless. Story 240. It is fine at a pool or the beach. I am not about to pull a Jeff Spicoli and go topless at Wendy's. Story 241. It's never a problem. I see the jealousy in their eyes, though. Story 242. Very comfortable, but I've also had 4 plastic surgeries on my chest and love handles, so take that for what it's worth. Story 243. It depends on the situation. If I am a guest in the home of another person, I will not walk around shirtless. If we are at my house and having a barbecue and it is hot outside, I may go shirtless. If we are at the beach, I will go shirtless. Story 244. They could go shirtless around me, and I would not have a problem with it if they do not mind, especially if it is hot or they are attractive. Story 245. No one but my wife gets to look at this horror show shirtless. Story 246. What is the context? I keep myself in shape, so I am not worried about my body or anything. But I am 100% not comfortable taking my shirt off at, let's say, a funeral. Story 247. They already do not want to fuck me. That is why we are friends. Seeing me shirtless is not going to change that. Story 248. If the circumstances are appropriate, I do not care who I am with and do not mind going shirtless. I lost my inhibitions because of my love of saunas, and I do not mind being nude in the sauna with friends of any gender. Story 249. I am very shy, but I have one of those Instagram bodies. Mostly genetics, but I work out throughout the week. A friend insisted I take my shirt off at a festival, and I felt self-conscious. I hate showing off. Power to the people who do it, but it's not for me. Story 250. I was at the Renaissance Fair all weekend and it was 94 degrees with 80% humidity. I did not have a shirt on and I had already sweat through my pirate coat before I even left the parking lot. Fortunately, the women I was with were mostly used to it from running together. I work hard on my physique and am proud of how far I have come. The only people who seem to care or comment about my being shirtless are other men. Story 251. You mean I have the opportunity to show them what they've been missing by dating the wrong guys? Bring it on. Story 252. I live in Miami. I had to make a conscious effort to be okay with it. Over the past 15 years, it has mainly shifted with my level of physical fitness. Story 253. I am fine with being shirtless. I actually prefer it at home. In public, it's more a matter of respect and not wanting to show off. I've been told my body is pretty good. Story 254. I am fine with it. I am in better shape than most men half my age. Story 255. Now that I am losing weight and excess fat, I am more comfortable. Before, I had enlarged male breasts and used to jiggle. Story 256. Depends on where I am in my workout cycle. After cutting, I feel perfectly comfortable because I know I look very good. I have noticed that women generally do not care. They stare even when you notice it and they just keep staring. After bulking, I feel comfortable, but I know it is not perceived as attractive as when you are lean and cut with all the curves and shapes. The lean look depends on the bulking phase, so I must do it. Story 257. My breasts are larger than most of theirs, so not really. Story 258. I feel uncomfortable because the expectation of a man's muscular chest does not match how mine looks. If you are hairy, you are told to be smooth. If you are smooth, you are told a real man should have hair. If you are not muscular, people say no problem, keep your shirt on, and then you are criticized for that. Story 259. I do it all the time at the end of my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu class. I always get comments about my diet and my workouts. Story 260. I stopped being self-conscious about my physical appearance a while ago. I went to the gym 3 to 5 times a week, 1 hour at a time, for a whole year lifting heavy, and it did not change my appearance. I even changed my diet because I wanted to look like Kratos from God of War. At this point, fuck it. I do not care if anyone sees me without my shirt on. It is not illegal. Story 261. Being shirtless is less embarrassing than refusing to do so because I am insecure about my body. Story 262. I feel about as comfortable going shirtless in front of my male friends. My mind tells me people will judge because I used to harshly judge people who were overweight when I was young and skinny. Story 263. I have never felt comfortable being shirtless. After I left high school, I worked out a lot and got into fantastic shape with single-digit body fat for a couple of years at my peak. But even then it was uncomfortable. Once a fat kid, always a fat kid. Story 264. It doesn't bother me at all. I'm too old to try to impress anyone. I wouldn't even care if I were completely naked. My appearance is low on my list of priorities. Story 265. If we are swimming, it is fine. I do not have the muscle tone to warrant it at other times. Story 266. I have Poland syndrome. One consequence is a completely missing left pectoral muscle. I rarely go shirtless anywhere. Story 267. As DiCaprio said in The Wolf of Wall Street, absolutely fucking not. Story 268. I do not feel comfortable going shirtless in front of anyone. Laughing out loud. Story 269. I feel I have a good physique, so I am comfortable shirtless. Story 270. My boobs are bigger than those of most of my lady friends. You know how guys want a six-pack? I'm packing a full mobile brewery. Story 271. Context matters a little. At the beach or pool, no problem. With my core friend group, likewise. In places where there are people I am not familiar with, I would probably be more hesitant. Story 272. Short of actually submerging myself in water, I'm keeping my shirt on. I don't want to get sunburned, and I long ago stopped trying to impress anyone who cares whether I'm tan. Story 273. I have a female friend in front of whom I walk around in my underwear and she does the same with me. We are really comfortable with each other. I have another friend who is like a sister. I do not walk around in my underwear in front of her, but I do go shirtless. Basically, I am very comfortable and do not care. Story 274. I'm perhaps too comfortable in my own skin, and all my friends know it. Some of them hire me for residential cleaning and painting when those needs arise. They ask me to remain clothed up front when expecting guests or visitors. Otherwise, I work au naturel for the liberating comfort, except that I wear shoes when using a ladder. I especially enjoy working outdoors in the buff. Story 275. If I am in a relationship, I refrain from going shirtless to respect my girlfriend. Otherwise, I go shirtless. Story 276. My body shape is okay, but I have very fair skin and my lower back is hairy. I am self-conscious about it, so I swim wearing a shirt. Story 277. If they're friends, it's still a bit awkward. Recently, I had to take my pants off and sit in my underwear while they were in the dryer. Story 278. Good friends? I don't care. At my last job, they would change in front of me sometimes, depending on how rushed they were, so I saw plenty of their breasts. Story 279. I am only sensitive to whether it will bother someone else. Otherwise, I do not care. I am usually shirtless, and that is just how I need to be. Story 280. It's not me who feels uncomfortable being shirtless. It's my female friends. I never understood how this is different from being shirtless at a pool. I normally do not remove my shirt without the explicit consent of everyone in the room, unless there is an emergency, such as hot oil being spilled. Story 281. I still have a lot of back acne. I am not comfortable showing it to anyone. Story 282. I really don't believe anyone can be more critical of me than I am, so no worries. Story 283. Not at all. I do not have any female friends. Story 284. In what context? 95% of the time you should not be shirtless in front of anyone. Story 285. I would only be shirtless in front of them in a situation where it would be appropriate for anyone else, like at a pool or a beach, so I feel indifferent. Story 286. 0% comfortable. I know how I used to look, and my wife does too. I look like a different person now, or rather it feels like a different person ate me or I ate a different person. In short, no. I am not comfortable at all because of shame. Story 287. It is fine. I have never really been bothered by it, although as I lose weight it becomes much more noticeable. Story 288. If you absolutely don't give a shit, no matter how you look, nobody else cares either. Story 289. I am comfortable. For the last 3 years I have lived in a coastal town, so for about 4 to 5 months each year I am usually shirtless. I am even comfortable being in my boxers next to close female friends when we are lying on the bed, playing video games, drinking, and relaxing. Story 290. I used to be pretty self-conscious and did not feel comfortable at all. I am not the most fit right now, but working out a bit has helped me realize that if I am not staring at other people's bodies at the gym, they are unlikely to be staring at mine. If they do stare and make a comment, that is clearly just them being an asshole. With that mindset, I feel much more comfortable going shirtless in front of friends who are women, such as at the gym or the pool. Otherwise, there should be a good reason to take my shirt off in front of someone who is not my partner. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.